And my name is Miriam. And today we're making cheese stuffed garlic naan.
For this recipe, you will need all-purpose flour, instant dry yeast, salt, sugar, vegetable oil, yogurt, warm milk, grated mozzarella cheese, garlic minced, butter, coriander chopped.
To a mixing bowl, you'll add dry ingredients: all-purpose flour, instant dry yeast, salt, and sugar.
Incorporate all of the dry ingredients. Next, add the wet ingredients. This includes the yogurt, oil, and the warm milk. The milk must be about 100 degrees Fahrenheit in order for the yeast to ferment.
Now mix the dough for about 5 minutes to allow the gluten to develop.
Place the dough on a clean surface, form into a ball, and rub with oil.
The dough will then proof in an oiled bowl. Here, yeast acts as a biological leavening agent, a living microorganism that produces CO2 and ethanol as byproducts of the fermentation process. The CO2 bubbles create pockets in the dough that allow the bread to rise. A leavening agent is a substance that generates gas in a food product. Breads can also be treated with chemical leavening agents such as baking soda or physical leaveners like air and steam. This proofing process will occur in the oven on low heat. After an hour, or when the dough has about doubled in size, it's time to punch down. This air in the dough comes from the yeast breaking down the sugars and starches in the dough. Next, divide the dough into 8 pieces equal in size and form each into a small ball, then flatten. Put 2 tablespoons of grated mozzarella in the middle of the flattened dough piece. Then, pull the edges up and pinch together to create a dough ball with cheese in the center. Some cheese may spill out in this process, and that's okay. When each dough piece has been filled with cheese, lightly flour a clean, dry surface and roll out the ball with a rolling pin. Making thin sheets of dough allows for a light, fluffy bread, but the dough should not be too thin to pick up. After rolling out the cheese dough, add your minced garlic and butter to a microwave-safe bowl and microwave for about 30 seconds or until the butter has just melted. This will become the garlic butter that will paint on the cooked cheesy naan at the end. Now we will cook our naan on the stovetop on high heat. This will cook the bread through conduction, a kind of heat transfer that occurs when the heat from the conductor, the pan, is directly transferred to the substance, the dough. This heat transfer works through direct contact, and the heat flows from the area of dough making contact with the surface up through the top of the dough. Once the top of the dough begins to bubble, it is ready to be flipped. You know the bread is ready once it develops brown spots on its surface. We want to ensure that our bread is fully cooked in order to maintain proper food safety practices. Ingredients like raw flour may contain foodborne pathogens which can be eliminated by cooking the bread to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, the microbes most commonly found in flour are killed. We can measure this temperature by using a probe thermometer to measure the thickest part of the bread with the end of the probe directly in the center of the dough. Enjoy!